Well, for more on this and how the country's business and financial sector are reacting, with me is Devine. He's chief economist at NCB Stockbrokers. Brian, thank you so much for being here with me. It does seem that there's a little bit of relief on the market, but actually we don't have a lot of the details. We don't have a lot of the condition or even how much Ireland is asking for. Are you concerned about what may come up, or do you think the worst is now behind us?
No, I think it's a positive that Ireland's actually applied for this. Let's be what's happened over the last number of months. We've seen yields blow out. The reality is now we're going to have a certain funding for the economy. We can get on with focusing on putting in place the 15 billion in cuts. I think people just want certainty, and when we see exactly where the cuts are going to come from, people can get on, consumer confidence can start to pick up again, and we can start to drive it forward. As you say, though, of course, it's still uncertain exactly how much we're going to apply for. The press reports say 80 to 90 billion, which makes sense to us, because if you look at Ireland, there's about 46 billion in government deficits over the next 3 years, about 16 billion in bonds maturing, and that would leave you with a figure of around 20 to 30 billion for the banks. It is worth just pointing out, though, that in a radio interview locally, Brian Lennon yesterday said that he didn't think it would get anywhere near the 70 billion when pushed in the interview. So that's one little interesting thing which hasn't really been picked up. Most people are going with this 80 to 90 billion figure.
Yeah, actually a lot of the bankers are telling us that it's between 80 and 90, because it would be 60 for the government and then that 35 for the banks. Brian, are you upset at the fact that actually just last week they were saying that no bailout was needed? Is this a bit of a blunder, and will it eventually actually hurt the government?
Yeah, well, I think the government are really on its last legs at this stage. As your last report was saying, they're going to be likely down to a majority of one. I just think it's positive for the country that they've taken it, because, to be honest, it was mixed messages, to say, coming out last week when we had the governor of the central bank saying one thing, we got our finance minister saying another. So now I think this just takes the focus off bailouts and focusing on fiscal cuts.
But Brian, how difficult is this going to be if there's a new government in power? They may actually say, well, we don't need this EU bailout, and throw it out of the water again.
No, we don't think, the political landscape is here that, Fine Gael in particular may be saying, obviously got to say, knock the government because they want to get in, but we believe behind the scenes that they have a similar attitude towards fiscal cuts and towards the economy. And you've got to remember, this will be a memorandum of understanding between Ireland, so it's Ireland as a state, and the IMF EU. So we think that it's positive for everyone, and it allows also, I suppose, the tactical side of it. If you're the opposition, you can blame the previous government.
Brian, is there a danger that actually, if you do only tap 70 billion instead of the 95 that's being branded around, that bondholders or bond vigilantes will start attacking you again?
Yeah, well, I think exactly. I think we've got to over-collateralise, or just ask for a bigger sum, because it's always better to surprise on the upside. If economic growth turns out to be better and we don't need to draw down as much, well, then all the better. But let's get all the bad news out now up front, and I think that's the best way forward.
Brian Devine, thank you so much for joining us today. Well.